Welcome. My name is Mario Batali, and this is Molto Mario. I'm here with my good friends Sue, Francis, and Stella, and today we're talking about La Cucina Italiana, as we always do on this show. More specifically, we're talking about La Cucina Napoletana, and more importantly than that, the desserts of Easter. That's right. We're taking it to another level of sweetness. The desserts of Easter, obviously, if you talk about desserts in Italy, you talk about two main places. You talk about Naples and Campania, and you talk about Sicily. Naples and Campania goes wild. Sicily goes wild, particularly for the marzipan and all of their crazy little kind of form things. Naples and Campania tend to really make a lot of very interesting and delicious desserts, some very sweet, some a little less sweet. Today we're going to make a couple that are very different. The first one we're going to make is a Candied Zest that can stand up all by itself. Then we're going to make a Sfogliatelle that'll knock your socks off. Then we're going to make a coffee custard, a very light, almost drizzly custard that you might drink instead of a café. And then we're going to make a pastiera, which is the Easter dessert of all time. It's made with grain, it's wild, it's weird, it strains. It's very molto. So the first thing we're going to make is this Candied Zest. And it's an interesting thing to do. What we have here is just boiling water. And then we also have a sugar syrup. Sugar syrup is made with 2 parts sugar to 1 part water until you get this nice viscous syrup. We're going to allow it to just sit here and kind of bubble. Eventually we're going to use it to actually candy this stuff. To take the zest, you use what's called a channel knife because you want the zest and some of the pith, not just the zest itself. If you didn't have a channel knife, you could just as easily take a paring knife and just take the whole thing off like that, not getting any of the fruit if you can avoid it, and then just putting it down on the old counter and cutting it across like that. But a channel knife costs about $1, so why not just get the thing that saves you the time and makes you look like you really know what you're doing, right?
Mario, is
Francis?
there a special orange you're supposed to use for that? Is there a special type of orange? Or
No, but at Easter time, we're talking about nearly the end of the citrus harvest. You're probably going to get these from Sicily as opposed to anywhere else. What you want to do is cut them as thick as you want, and then we're going to blanch them just by dropping them into boiling water with nothing in it. What you'll do, the idea behind this is that you want to get rid of as much of the bitterness as you can. So you'll blanch it once, or sometimes twice, or sometimes even 3 times in changed water. And what you want to do is just get it in there and then get it out. I like it to still have a certain amount of bitterness, so I literally only blanch it once. You do want to cook it all the way through, though, because you don't want it to feel like it's raw fruit. And if it was still slightly raw fruit, then it wouldn't be preserved and it wouldn't be able to stay for a long time. So what I have here are ones that I've actually allowed to cool for a while, and we're going to put them in a pan and take some sugar syrup, that is to say simple syrup, and just pour it over perhaps, I don't know, a cup for that amount, and we're just going to stir that around and just kind of coat it. Then you're going to turn off the heat and allow it to cool. And basically, once it does that, then you take it out, and it looks like this. And these have been allowed to cool on either a little rack or anything that you want, even on a table. They're a little sticky. And now what we're going to do, to make them even sweeter, is dump them in a little bit of superfine sugar. And at that point, they're already ready to serve. It's kind of like a little after dinner with your coffee kind of thing. I think this is probably where the Americans got the idea that in Naples they love a slice of lemon or a little piece of lemon zest with their coffee, because they don't do that in Italy. That's only in Italian-American families. Not to say that's bad, it's just it's not a truly Italian world. So now you guys can each try one of these.
Mary, how long will these stay?
These will stay packed in a little plastic container at room temperature for 1,000 years. They'll never go bad.
Mario,
you will eat these before they go bad, let me just tell you that.
Mario, can you use other fruit besides the
Absolutely.
orange?
Grapefruit, lemon, blood orange, anything trendy. Okay. Bergamot might be a little bit of an issue because it's really bitter, but yes, anything you want.
Same process.
Same exact process. Keeping in mind, you do want to get a lot of that pith, because that's what makes it such an interesting bite as opposed to something too sweet. Now, the next thing...
and chewy at the same time.
Right, exactly. And if you allow them to sit longer, the longer they sit, the more firm they'll get on the outside, but they'll always have that kind of softness inside. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make Sfogliatelle, which is a very simple pastry with 2 eggs, a little sugar, flour, and butter. And we're going to mix this until it just starts to come together. And I'm going to add just the tiniest little drizzle of water. I don't know, 2½ tablespoons. A lot of trendy pastry chefs, and actually successful pastry chefs, use ice water in their pastry dough. But I don't, because I like to roll it out to as far as I can to the edge. Then what we want to do is we want to just roll this out. And I'm actually not going to do that because I have one rolled out in the back. But you don't want to work this too much. If anything, you put it back in the fridge and let it rest for a little while, and then come back to it. Because the more it gets room temperature, the harder it is to deal with. So then you just roll it out, and it looks like this. Now the filling, yes?
Could you make this without a food processor?
Absolutely, and as a matter of fact, in Italy, they would never make it with a food processor. Grandma would actually pour it, just like the well method, like I do with my pasta, put the butter and the eggs in the middle, and then just bloop, 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 and then throw it in the fridge. Now to make the filling for this, we're gonna take some of these beautiful zesty things, and we're just gonna chop them up like so, and we're gonna mix them with perhaps the most important ingredient in all of Southern Italian dessert cookery, that is to say, fresh ricotta. This is just made from the magnificent milk of either water buffalo or regular old cattle. And it's the secondary production of what you would do when you make cheese. Ricotta, of course, comes from the past participle of the verb cuocere, which is cotta. Ricotta means cooked again. Now what we want to do is mix this up, and now we're just going to want to stuff it inside some of these little shells. And what we're going to do is create interesting little tube shapes by taking it like that, cutting it like that, cutting them like that, cutting them like that, and then just putting a little bit inside, keeping in mind that just like a ravioli, we don't want to overstuff this. The whole idea is the balance between the dough itself and that beautiful ricotta filling. Then what you want to do is just go like that, and just kind of stuff them open like so, so that it gets a little tight on this side, and it opens up just a little bit on that side. We're going to pop these in the oven. When we come back, I'll show you how they taste. We'll eat a couple, and then we'll start to make our beautiful Coppette al Cafe. So stay with us. It's like we're in Naples at breakfast. There's a bar called Gambrino's right there off the Piazza San Carlo where they make these things and they serve them warm in the morning, and you have your little cappuccino and everything's good, and the guy next to you is like 84 years old and he's having a sambuca for breakfast. And you're like, I love this place. Naples is so cool. So anyway, they're hot. They're liquid molten love inside, so be careful. But by all means, go ahead, ladies.
Mario,
it's almost Easter.
How do you spell sfogliatelle?
Sfogliatelle, S-F-O-G-L-I-A-T-L-L-E. I'm a good little speller. Go ahead, ladies.
And Mario, what does it mean?
Sfogliatelle is like sfoglia. Sfoglia means leaf. This means leafy or leaf. Leaf-like, or the past participle of leafed. It's sfogliatelle. It's like asking them, what does donut mean? I mean, donut. Everyone knows what it means, right?
That's an Irish question.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. Well, we'll talk about that later. All right, now we've made our sfogliatelle. That's what we're going to have for breakfast on Easter. Then we're going to make a beautiful Coppette al Cafe, which is this beautiful little coffee custard with whipped cream mixed into it. The way you want to start is you take some egg yolks, 6 of them, and you take a bit of milk, say, I don't know, let's go with a 1/4 cup. Better that you have a little short than a little too much. We're going to take a shot of espresso. If you didn't have espresso around the house, you would take a teaspoon of instant coffee or instant coffee espresso. Then we're going to take about, I'm going to take all that sugar. So say a cup of sugar and 3 tablespoons flour. Now the key here is you whisk it all together first, and then you introduce it to a little bit of heat. Coppette, heat, Coppette, nice to meet you. And what you want to do is be very, very careful, because this could easily curdle or break. So it's better it's just when it starts to coat the back of your spoon that you're going to actually deal with it. Now, we're going to whip cream, keeping in mind that whenever you whip cream, you want to put it in a cold bowl and have the cream really cold. That will allow it to whip more quickly. Eggs, on the other hand, egg whites, you want to put them in a room temperature bowl, and you want to have the eggs out for at least a half hour before you whip them. This is the converse action of aeratization. I'm making that up. So we're going to do this, and it's not going to take too long to bring this small amount of liquid together. So we're going to watch it very carefully. It should take, I don't know, if the milk was cold, it'll take you 4 minutes. If the milk was at room temperature, that'll probably take you about 1.5 minutes. What you want to do is just, at that point, once it starts to coat the back, and I'll show you how it is when we get there, keeping an eye.
Special pan, it's round. It looks rounded. Is it rounded on the bottom or no?
I just like the look of it, but this isn't, it's not that important that it was round. If it was square on the bottom, it would work. The beauty of a round-bottomed pan is that when you're using a whisk or a spoon, it goes all the way to the corner. The only problem that could happen here, without destroying it, is that you would have eggs cook into the very crevice of where the pan walls came together. And that would wreck everything because then you'd have scrambled eggs. And that's really, I mean, the worst case scenario here is that you just have kind of a sweet little omelet that's not really right. But what you want to do then is you'll get this, and we'll keep watching this so you can see exactly how it is, but you'll pour it into a bowl and put that over ice so that you can immediately cool it, and that's also kind of your safety net. If it looks like it was just starting to break or curdle or custard up and look like scrambled eggs, then you throw it in that bowl and you immediately start stirring it around until it gets nice and cool. Then what we're going to do, how are the Sfogliatelle, by the way?
Delicious.
Are they delicious and tasty? So now we're going to take this unsweetened, unflavored whipped cream. That's exactly why this custard has to be as intense as it is, as coffee. There it is. Now it's starting to go. You can see, take a look at this. You can see that along the edges it's starting to set a little bit. You can look better if I use a spoon. You can move it along there and it's starting to look like it's actually cooking like scrambled eggs. And that's exactly what you want it to do. But right when it gets to that point, then you want to immediately dump it in that bowl with ice. And then whisk it immediately so that it comes in contact with the walls of that bowl, because that's how it's going to transfer the cool to the custard. And once you've got it in there, you're already in pretty good shape, unless your bowl was hot. So now this is going to eventually, in about 4 or 5 minutes, set up to look just like that. Now, this would be good, and this is cool. This is just like a regular pudding. You could make this kind of pudding out of an instant pudding package, for that matter. What you want to do to make it a little bit different, and what makes it so Neapolitan, aside from the presence of that super intense espresso, is now we're just going to whip in fold in some soft whipped cream. And then we're just going to toss in the fridge. And what that's going to do is kind of settle a little bit. You don't want to worry about it too much. But when you're folding in, keep in mind, it's not some magic trick. Everyone's always worried about doing it like Jacques Pepin. But you just have to kind of fold it and get it through so that it's nicely mixed around, but not completely mixed around. It doesn't need to be completely mixed around. And then, go ahead, Margaret, why don't you divide it up amongst the 3 cups. I'm sorry, Francis. Francis it was, Francis. Now, to make the pastiera, the most important thing is you have to get this stuff called emmer. If you couldn't find it, barley is an excellent substitute, but emmer, or some people call it spelt, but emmer is the real farro. Spelt is a little bit different, it's a little bit more weedy. What you want to do is soak it for a day in cold water, then change the water, bring it up to a boil, and simmer it until it's just tender, like perfectly cooked rice. That will take between 15 and 25 minutes. Then you want to cool it and just allow it to set, and that's what we have here. When we come back, I'm going to show you how we bring all of this stuff together to make this beautiful pastiera, which is kind of like a wheat pie, the most traditional dessert to Naples at Easter. Stay with us. Now, to finish our magnificent little coppette, you'd put a couple, 3, but not anymore, because people get carried away willy-nilly with this whole thing about garnishing stuff. It's good. It's good. Oh, good. It's your birthday. Here's your coppette. Now, there's your little coffee coppette. Now, we're going to make this beautiful pastiera. Now, I made a little simple pastry dough. You could buy the one right out of the refrigerator case. It's a little sweeter than the basic pie dough, and it has an egg or 2 in it, but it's not a problem. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take that farro, that emmer, that we've already boiled. I'm going to add some warm milk to it, lemon zest, a half teaspoon of cinnamon, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Go ahead, ladies, try the coppette.
This is great.
Is it delicious?
And what does coppetta?
It means a little cup. It's, you know, it's their kind of way of describing. In Italian culture, there's 3 or 4 different kinds of desserts. One are called desserts or dolci al cucchiaio. This is one where this is kind of lumped in with ice cream and with tiramisu, little custardy things. The other ones are by hand, and then there's the cake ones that are dippers. Now, I have my magnificent emmer sitting over there. Now I'm going to take the ricotta. This is about 1.5 cups of fresh ricotta. Ricotta, if you're familiar with, comes from the milk. They make the cheese, and then what's left over is the whey. They separate that whey again by adding some kind of a separator, like even lemon juice, or you could stir it with a thistle. and it'll separate again. And what that secondary cooking brings is ricotta, because it's been recooked. We're gonna have a little bit of
Sicilian family calls it ricotta.
ricotta. That's right. I mean, you know, and the beauty of the Italian language is that they say a lot of the similar words, but they say them in their original dialect, so that you can't possibly understand what the heck they're talking about unless you live from there. As a matter of fact, perhaps one of the most popular game shows on TV in Italy is this one where someone from Lucca comes on the phone. Hey, Carlina from Lucca, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. Then they say, all right, now we're going to say a line, and they say it in the dialect of Italy, right? And she tries to guess what the heck they're talking about. It's a great show. Anyway, so you've got your ricotta mix, you've got your emmer or your barley or your wheat berry mix, and then what you do is you take your pastry and you lay it in relatively thickly on the bottom, and then you bring it up along the edges, but don't worry about making to the top of the edges. Then what you do is
You just lick your finger because it tastes so good.
because it tastes so darn good. It's just not right to do it right. So before you do that, now you want to mix these two together. And I'm going to save about a third of this because we really want it to look grainy on the top. In the old days, I'm sure this dessert was developed because they didn't have enough sweet stuff to go around, but they had plenty of, like, emmer sitting around the back house. So they wanted to get that going. So what you want to do is stir it until it's set through. It looks a little wet, but keep in mind, you've only cooked that emmer or barley, or wheat berries for that matter, for about 15 or 20 minutes. So it's just cooked through, but there's still plenty of room for it to absorb stuff. So then what you're going to do here is put it through like that. This is quite a bit, isn't it? This is even more than I thought. This is a loaves and fishes kind of story here. Then what we want to do is we put this on top. Now, desserts in Italy, as I was saying before, the dolci al cucchiaio are almost always served after dinner or after lunch. And they don't even really have that many desserts after dinner unless they've gone out to a fancy meal. After lunch, they consider lunch kind of their celebratory meal, and that's a big thing. So they'll serve them then. The rest of the desserts, like these, or like biscotti, or like pandoro, or like any of the other cakes that you're familiar with, will be served throughout the day. And they may eat them for breakfast. The funniest thing about old Italian guys is they'll sit around in the bar, and they'll bet these kind of desserts with their game of briscola. They're all sitting around there. There's this card game where you have to, it's kind of like a little mini bridge game where you sit there and you play, and the whole idea is that you all accept that you're going to cheat. It's just whether you're going to get caught or not. And you do the whole thing.
It's the art.
It's the art of the cheat and the art of the right part of the game, and then they figure out how they're going to steal them. And then they have these things called pandoro or pan veronese or any of these kind of holiday cakes, and that's what they bet for. So then they'll have those in the afternoon with a glass of dry wine, not even sweet wine. It's a kind of a cool thing. Now, the idea behind this little old, what would you call this? A weave? A net? This is really Margaret's world. That's right, basket weaving. Underwater basket weaving is just create yourself some kind of a little lattice. That's it. Lattice is the word I was looking for. That you're happy with. But you could just as easily put it right on top and let it go. The most important thing is when you get to the edge, you just knock those little edges off. We're not going to glaze this with anything.
But it's so pretty that way.
It is so pretty that way, isn't it?
Mario, would you ever cover that with like a whole pie top?
Right, you could, and then just, you know, draw your name in it or whatever. Or
Okay.
carve some funny little initials. Now what you want to do is you want to have sheet pan, you want to have your oven at 350. This is a low cook. It's going to take about an hour because we want to cook all that liquid down. What it's going to leave is this beautiful kind of viscous, almost caramel texture because of the sugar and with the residual kind of starch in that grain. When we come back, we'll take this out of the oven, and we'll be tasting desserts in the style of Naples. Welcome back. Now we have, of course, arrived at the end of our magnificent Easter feast. We're going to take a little bit of what's left of our dessert, their Candied Zest, or our candied orange rind, because the ladies, well, they went wild on it. But it was just because it was so good. Then, while this is still warm, although this is also an excellent dessert to serve at room temperature, because with that grain in there, this would actually qualify as one of those little afternoon kind of guys, because it's going to have set completely. You saw that liquid that we had in there. Well, now it's nearly gone. Let's use a knife for that, and we'll cut it. Oh, yeah.
Do you think that this could be good like 3 days after it's been
Absolutely. This is one of those ones that, weird or not, the refrigeration police are going to come after me on this. But this would be something they would leave on the kitchen counter covered in maybe even not a clean kitchen towel. That's right. The Italians are going wild on this stuff. The sanitation guys from the Board of Health are going to freak out, but this might just as easily, look at how cool that looks. And you sprinkle a little of that over it, and you spank it with a little zucchero, and there you have it. Welcome to Naples. Can I get you a cup of coffee?
Thank you.
So, would this be something that you ladies might make?
Oh, yeah.
Stunted them, I
Stella.
got it. I want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank you guys for being here, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next Molto Mario.